What's up, dudes and dudettes of the internet? My name's Scyushi, and we are back in more Trove. Today is a long overdue video. I apologize for this taking as long as it has, because I know that some of you are gonna watch this and you're gonna be pissed because you have been doing the old method of just loot collecting your gems raw to end up getting gem dust, rather than the tricks that I'm going to be showing you today, which essentially gives you like free gem dust. With an asterisk, because you actually do have to spend a hefty amount of flux upgrading gems so that you can essentially loot collect them, and then you end up getting some gem sparks out of the deal, which ultimately gives you more gem dust back than the gem dust that you end up spending upgrading. But you can still end up spending a lot of flux. So just as an example, what you're going to end up doing is you're going to level up a gem to 15, a crystal gem in particular, not mystic, nothing stellar or radiant or anything like that, just crystal gems. You get those to level 15, you'll loot collect it, it goes to two gem sparks. So that's essentially going to give you 60k gem dust. If you have the flux, however, you'll level that gem to 25 and loot collect it, and you'll get 4 gem sparks. So you ultimately end up getting 120,000 of the gem dust type. I'm going to go into more detail, but this is just for the people that just want the information and, you know, to split and get out of here. But you got to be really careful with your flux when you do get them to level 25. The last time I ended up doing it, I spent over 6 mil flux just on upgrading gems. So it can get very expensive. The main reason why we're doing all of this, for those that might be new to the game, I'll just briefly talk about when you end up getting your gems to crystal tier, it starts costing gem sparks, which essentially is just whatever element, you know, the water gem spark is just 30,000 water gem dust. Further than that, there's going to end up being the primal gem spark, which is for 4 of each of these, so pretty expensive. And then when you end up getting into mystic gem territory, you get the mystic gem shard, which, as you can see, is horrifically expensive, especially in terms of the gem sparks. So the methods that I'm telling you guys about today is almost, if not entirely, mandatory in order to end up getting the appropriate amount of gem dust types so that you can end up leveling up your gems. Let me tell you, if you're not doing this method, you're essentially going to just be spending hours and hours and hours grinding dungeons vanilla. So let's get into it. Let me just grab one of these right here. So I'll open one of these boxes. I should also just mention very briefly that D14 is going to have crystal gems appear rarely out of gem boxes. D15, however, will have crystal gems be the most common, with mystic gems being the rare ones. And we don't care about the mystic gems. D15 Prime World, or any Prime World for that matter, has a random chance of giving you a gem box rather than the Elemental Worlds, which will end up giving you a guaranteed gem box, but it's of that specific element. So it's still most cost effective to just grind Water World for a few hours, then go to Air, then go to Fire, then go to Cosmic. Like, it doesn't matter which order, you basically just tackle the specific element that you're missing. I really wish that they would change it so that D15 of Prime Worlds would just end up dropping boxes all the time, because then I could just slowly amass up a fortune of gems and gem dust types and so on and so forth. But before you end up opening these boxes, you want to make darn sure that it's gem day. I'm gonna, you know, it's not gem day at the time that I'm recording this, so I'm just gonna give you guys a little brief example. But the reason why you're waiting for gem day is because when you open these boxes, you'll end up having the less cost to upgrade them. That's gonna be huge. If you're just farming these gems and you don't want to, you know, you don't want to farm them any other day than maybe like once a week, make sure that you do it on gem day, because you have a chance of getting more boxes when you're doing dungeons, which essentially ends up helping out quite a bit in terms of your time being saved. So with all of that out of the way, let's open this up. Excuse my UI, it's slightly different because I have a mod. You're gonna be in the same boat as me anyways, because while this mod does allow me to auto level up, what we're actually gonna be doing is holding down the space bar. On controller, I'm assuming it's holding down X or A or whatever, B, I think on Switch. As far as I know, you just hold down the button on console. I can't report that 100%. I'm just assuming it's the same as on PC. So we're going to end up holding the spacebar down, not using any gem augmentation items or anything like that. Like, we don't need to waste any of these resources, because all we're essentially doing is just going to waste a bunch of our flux and a little bit of our gem dust to get it to level 15. When a gem, a crystal gem, is at level 15, we can loot collect it for 2 sparks, as I mentioned previously, which means that we basically just made, like, at the very least 50k of that gem dust type. Sometimes you get really, really unlucky with leveling up a gem, but I've never had it average more than like maybe 6 to 10k gem dust spent to level it to 15. I might even be highballing it just for the sake of the video, but what it's basically going to do is just give you a whole lot more gem dust back. However, if you are the type of person that has tons and tons of flux, and I'm talking millions of flux, and you don't care about that flux, you would then level this gem to 25 instead. So let me just hold down the spacebar right here and be a little bit cautious with leveling this up. I'll give you guys a quick little tip that will prevent you from having to do this with every single gem, because you're essentially going to be doing this with hundreds of gems. So it gets really, really obnoxious, right? But it's just so efficient, you have to do it. So once you get the gem to level 25, it's ultimately going to cost you a lot more flux doing that method. And so that's why it's really important that you have extra flux. But you are essentially going to be getting 2 more gem sparks back. So essentially, I'm loot collecting this gem for 120k gem dust, right? 3.6, yeah. The trick that you can do to prevent a gem from going past level 25 is you'll notice that the gem itself starts costing gem sparks of the specific element. So what you want to do is craft down any gem sparks that you have into the raw dust. That way, I'm not going to do it right now, but that way you won't have any of these gem sparks in your inventory, thus preventing you from accidentally getting this above level 25. So that way you can just open your boxes, select the gem, hold down the action button, bang, it goes to level 25. Don't loot collect it, just go to the next gem. Do that over and over and over again until your whole inventory is filled up with high level gems, whether it be level 15 or level 25. Level 15 is going to become a little bit more tedious because you can't just hold down the button. You got to be very meticulous with, where you level them up and so on. But then you end up loot collecting all of them, and then don't make the amateur mistake of opening up more and continuing on like nothing happened, because after loot collecting all of those, you essentially are going to have to craft down all of your gem sparks again. Okay? Once all of that is said and done, frankly speaking, you are going to be swimming in gem dust, and it's still not going to be enough. Because the severe amount that you need is actually insane. I'm still sitting here after like maybe a couple hours. I ended up getting like 300-400 gem sparks. So it's very, very efficient, like ridiculously efficient. And I'm kind of at the point right now, there's a little bit of too much information, TMI, whatever, for your information, FYI. BYOBB. Basically, I'm bottlenecked by 10th lives with my message gems, but I'm also deciding whether or not I want to max out my message gems for a physical class, because that's going to end up taking away the ability for me to max out a set of magic gems. I don't know why I'm being picky about this, probably just because lesser mystic gems are so much more expensive to level up than their counterparts with the empowered gems. Right? Anyways, that's neither here nor there. That's for another video. Actually, we already have videos talking about gem cost and gem sparks and all that stuff. But hopefully this video was helpful for you guys. As I mentioned, the beginning of this video was supposed to just get right to the point, and then the rest of it was us going into super detail for those of you that might not know about this method, or maybe you're even new to Trove, so you don't have a full understanding of all of these mechanics and so on. But hopefully this was helpful. If it was, smash like, sub for more. I'm going to do more Trove videos. You guys know me. I'm going to be playing Trove until the day I die. Have yourselves a wonderful day. Sayonara and stay epic.